Welcome to Artists in Conversation, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, presented by the Windward Theater Area. My name is Jordan Fox, and I am the Theater Area Advisor here at Windward School. During these unprecedented times when we cannot gather and share stories in the same ways we have in the past, the faculty members of the theater area have decided to take this time to reflect on what inclusion means to our theater community and how we can learn more from others. Although this time keeps us apart physically, we wanted to find ways that we can actually become a stronger community based on openness, mutual respect, and understanding. Our intention is to invite a diverse group of professional theater artists to connect closely to our students and then to our larger community, and to discuss what it really means to actively acknowledge and interrogate racism, discriminatory practices, and inequity in theater arts. With a shared commitment to learn more, actively listen, and lean into discomfort, we want to use this format as a place of learning, reflection, and in the spring, creation of new works by our students inspired by this exposure. We believe that at its very best, theater has the power to change lives. We hope to put that belief into practice through these panel discussions. We are just beginning the work, and this work will continue far into the future. We are committed to our own education as well as the growth of our students. On behalf of my colleagues, we want to express our heartfelt gratitude to our community of faculty and administration for their support and encouragement for us to pursue this journey. We would also like to say thank you to our students for their openness and willingness to lean in and learn. And without further ado, please enjoy Windward School's Artists in Conversation.
Representation is so important, and I'll tell you why. Because when I did see myself on stage, it resonated so deeply with me that I manifested the exact role that I saw as a child into my adult life. And that was in Mamma Mia. I went to go see Mamma Mia at the Amundsen Theater. It was the first national tour before it opened on Broadway. And there was a guy on stage who was light, kind of tan skin with long curly ringlet hair queening out on stage. And I was like, oh, that's me. There's a spot for me. I felt like almost weirdly relaxed all of a sudden. The biggest accomplishment for me was Burr, because Burr seemed like this insurmountable amount of work and time, and it was something that I had been working on since I joined the show. It was the first role I learned. It was the role I thought I was going to have to go on for, because when we were downtown, Leslie, between shows, got stuck on a train, so we didn't have cell service, and we had only been open a week. I didn't even have costumes, and they were like, Lynn came out of his dressing room at 5 minutes to places, and he says, Andrew, Leslie's not here. And I was like, what do you mean he's not here? Like, it wasn't like I knew a half hour. It was like 5 minutes to places. They were like, he's not here. And so they started pinning me in a costume, and I was just like, okay, this is going to be the moment. And then Leslie ran in at the last minute, and which I was grateful for, but it was definitely a moment of like, I was a little disappointed in the moment, because I was like, I want to see if I can do it. You know, now that even though I had no notice, I wanted to see, like, could I do it?
I have a question about, I watched you talk about footsteps. You had an entrance with Priscilla Lopez in the Heights, and you talk about this moment of someone you idolized, and she would improvise these steps and what that meant to you. So could you share that story with our audience?
So I didn't really understand like the the genius and the fame that was Priscilla Lopez until much, much later on when I saw a chorus line on stage. And then it was at that point I learned, there was actually this person who was incredible, and she's Priscilla Lopez, and she ended up winning a Tony for something else, but she's really sort of put on the map for that. And that sort of left my brain. And then when we became a company for In the Heights, I remember one of my really good friends and one of your friends, James, freaking out because he knew that Priscilla Lopez was in the company and he was actually going to get to meet her. And, ignorantly, he was like, that's like Morales, like that's Diana Morales. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, of course. And so any interaction that I had with her, I, for the most part, I was fangirled a little bit. And I was always sort of, I was not my biggest and best self, but there was this moment right before we entered into the dining room scene for In the Heights, in which there would be transitional music, and she would just improvise to whatever the music was, and she would do different dances based on like where she was that day, trying to get into character to come on stage. And it wasn't like until pretty late in our run that I realized I was watching the person that I was modeling my career after was her, and I didn't realize that every night she was sort of paving the way for me, and I would walk in her actual footsteps as we went out onto the stage. And I remember thinking every night, even if you don't like hit all of your beats, Karen, if you just follow Priscilla, you'll be okay. Just like watch and listen and stay on the same plane as Priscilla and you're gonna be fine.
I remember meeting the production stage manager of the 42nd Street Revival on Broadway, and they were kind enough to let me come to the show with them and sort of sit in the office with them before the show and learn from them, and then stand behind the person that was calling all of the cues in the show. So I'm backstage in the wing as all the hustle and bustle is happening, and there are actors running by, and there's stagehands, and there are people doing costume changes, and they're lowering in scenery, and I'm just standing there in the corner witnessing all of it and witnessing this stage manager kind of be the train conductor. And I walked out of the theater that night and I said, this is what I wanted. Like, it was a real, if the light bulb hadn't hit already, that was that for me. And I kind of never looked back. So that's sort of how I found my way to this. And as I've had jobs in this career path, it continues to be the thing that I want to do and that I enjoy doing.
Do you have a moment when you were around their age and you saw yourself as a young artist of color and you said, there I am, yeah, I can do this? And how seeing that representation shaped your perspective in the life in the arts? Who were those people? What were those shows?
Well, when I was younger, I sang all the time. I sang in church and I sang around the house very, very loudly. And my favorite movie was Annie. And I wanted to be Annie so badly that I would sing The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow all the time in the house. But my main place to sing it was at the bottom of the stairs. And if you wanted to get upstairs and wanted me to move, you would have to give me 25 cents because I was in concert. So Annie was my first introduction to singing in a performance sort of way, because I don't necessarily consider singing in church as a performance. It's more of a religious type of thing. So when I discovered Annie, I discovered that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to sing and I wanted to, to do that sort of thing, but I didn't sort of equate it to having a job as an actress. And also there weren't, that I can remember in the Annie that I saw when I was growing up in the 80s, there wasn't a Black character that was a girl in Annie. But because I was so young and because I wasn't thinking that way, it didn't bother me. I just wanted to sing. I liked the songs, and that was what I wanted to do. So that was my first introduction in performing arts. And then when I saw the movie version of the musical Little Shop of Horrors, I saw those girls and they were so like powerful and singing and loud and sassy. And that was my first sort of musical sort of attachment to like, maybe I can do this.
This past weekend, I got cast in a recurring role for the CW network show Black Lightning. So I had to hop on a flight on early Sunday morning. I had to pack my life up in less than 24 hours, hop on a plane to Atlanta, Georgia, where I am right now. And it's been crazy. I had to do costume fittings, and we started working on set on Monday. But I didn't want to miss my opportunity to speak to you guys, because it's so important. You guys are the future of everything that we're doing right now in Hollywood, in theater. And these are the opportunities that you can't miss. So my life kind of took an unexpected, exciting turn, but I get to share it with all of you. And I'm here in Atlanta in a hotel room, which is a pretty cool space, and hanging out with you guys. It seems like the conversations really started to pick up this year, around the time that George Floyd, the unfortunate incidents with him. And although we had seen those types of things happen to Black men before, like Trayvon Martin and things like that, there was something different. Maybe it was the pandemic. Maybe it was the fact that the world stopped and everybody had enough time to actually not be distracted for once. And we were all really being affected in real time by the same thing. I don't know, and it's probably different for all of us, but that's kind of how it felt. And then I started, we started seeing casting offices addressing the lack of diversity. And not that made me feel like it was going to fix anything, because we've definitely kind of heard, these types of things before. But I think the difference was that we were all in the same plane, at least in the art community, we felt, it felt like for the first time, even if you had this status when the world was moving at its normal pace, now everything was like, listen, we are all in this room and nobody can leave until we fix this problem, or at least talk about it. So 2020 for me seems like it felt like something was different. And it's going to be an absolute letdown if we come out of this and things don't change. It's going to be like, oh, okay, like that was, it's kind of been a waste of a moment. But I think, the things that Karen and Eden are working on, would they have had the time, to really sit down and do those things? So I think there's so many blessings that came just from time, in a sense, standing still. And it feels like 2020 has been the year of the pivot in the artist community. It's just going to be, it's kind of nerve-wracking to see what the manifestation of these conversations and these efforts that are very much needed, what will the manifestations be in 2021, 22 and so forth, because they're so needed. So 2020 just, to me, seems like when those conversations really felt different.
Listening, and I said that yesterday, this is a safe space, and there are no wrong ways to get to a better place. This is unprecedented. So we are asking the questions, we are doing the work. It's not an easy snap of a thing. It's a fade, not a spotlight, blackout. It's a slow moving thing, but we're moving in the right direction. And I think that by asking these questions, by just challenging yourself and challenging your friends and speaking up when you feel it, when it's right there, when somebody says something that you know is not quite right, speak up on it. And you don't have to worry about being the person that is, shaking things up. You're just trying to make things a little bit better, and don't be afraid of that, because fear is stupid. And well, I didn't make that up. My friend has a company, and that's their logo, but it is, when you think about it, because you won't ever get to another place if you keep being afraid. And even though it's scary, you can't change change is uncomfortable sometimes. So we need to sit in that uncomfortableness, maybe during this time. And I appreciate the questions that you guys are asking, and I appreciate you being here and listening and being in tune and trying.
Can you give one last share on what you would love to see from seventh or the next emerging generation of artists, like the one thing that you would like to see from them as a generation of artists?
Yeah, I'll say this. We all understand privilege. We all understand that we have it, right? I like to think of people weaponizing their privilege and using it to sort of counteract whatever has given them the privilege. So that's something that you can be active about all the time. And just like, you know, speaking up for people, understanding when something is said that is incorrect and being like, excuse me, but that is actually something that we don't say anymore. Or, you know, putting yourself in places in which you know will be better for other people to feel more comfortable. Yeah, that using the privilege that you already have, I think is a good way.
Thank you.
We're a community of artists, and I think for young people to remember that there's a special sort of support that we have for one another in our industry. I feel that as a non-performer, we're all working together to meet a common goal. And it's important to support one another in order to do that. And for anybody who's considering a career in the arts, there's a lot of things that can get in the way of that. There's a lot of competitive spirit. There's a lot of challenges that have nothing to do with the art itself. And I encourage people to remind yourself why you wanted to do this in the first place. What makes it special for you? What was it the first time that you got that first opportunity that made you so thrilled? Because that can wear away over time as you do a show 8 times a week for years maybe, and you get worn away by some of the realities of it becoming a job and not a dream. As best as you can, hold on to and remember what makes this special for you. Check in with yourself, because if this is no longer your thing and no longer special for you, then that's an important thing to check in with yourself about. And it's okay to say, I wanted this when I was 22 years old and I don't want it when I'm 37 years old. That's an okay thing. Keep checking in with yourself, keep supporting yourself and others, because a lot of other things will try and conspire to get in your way of doing that.
Thank you.
I think that that was great, Scott. Make sure that you're still chasing success and not chasing fame. You want to be really good at what you do. And if you're good at what you do, you might become famous, but you'll definitely be successful. And I think that that's what we should be chasing above anything else, like to just be good at your craft and to be kind to the people that you work with, because this business, though vast, is so small, and you're going to run into the same people on the way up, on the way down, on the way over. So to make sure just to always to be kind and to keep the love, lead with love, and don't be afraid to be fearless. Be fearless with your ideas, be fearless with your intentions, be fearless with your words and your spirit and your fire. We need you, we need that. So be fearless.
God, I love this. I think what I want to impart is that it's okay if you don't know something and to ask. Like right before my first panel, James said, do you like to be referred to as a Black actor or an actor of color? What a great, thoughtful question. I think something that we're seeing a lot right now on the internet and in the world is people saying, I feel this way, and people who've been functioning in a certain way their whole life feeling like, well, that's not true. That's not what I intended. And it's like, actually, this is a really great time to hear the way someone else is feeling and now adapt and learn from it. And so I want to impart that to you as you go into the world. And another thing that I want to share is to really and truly, like, when you're in a room, literally look around the room and ask yourself, is this room diverse? When you're in a room, in any room, just look around and ask yourself, is the room diverse for the rest of your life? And if it isn't, if you have the power to change that, make that change. I don't know who I'm talking to out there. I don't know how many people are watching this. It could just be my mom. I don't know. But if it is my mom, you too, Mom. But truly look around the room and ask yourself if it's diverse. And I hope that you would like it to be. And I would hope that you would take the necessary steps to make it more diverse, because that is truly impactful change that you can make.
Thank you.
I would just say the thing that I wish I would have told myself, and I still need to tell myself this more. And I think it's important to be able to admit certain things, even after you've had some really amazing experiences, but to remember that it can be you, no matter what happens. Why shouldn't it be you? As a young person, it can be you. It could be you to start the conversation in a room that is lacking diversity. It can be you to start writing in a journal that can turn into scripts. Whatever it is, there's so many things that now, as I look at, where we've come as a society. I mean, in my the time that I've been involved in the arts, my desire is to continue to ask myself that question, because it's uncomfortable, for me, because I think sometimes with anything that you do well, there's another area that maybe you're not as strong in. And sometimes you shun from that area because you just want to revel in the fact, but I am strong over here. And when you're young and when you are impressionable and you're just starting out, that's the time to develop, to become well-rounded in everything. And I think that's what every comment that somebody just made, every answer on this question, they felt like building blocks to me as I heard what everybody had to say. And I think that there are so many young people that don't feel like they have the foundation to create, to talk, to even feel like it could be, they can be a part of the art. So just remember, it can be you, it should be you. There's no reason why it can't start with you. And there's a story, there's a song that has to come from you first. And everyone said everything. So yeah, I say believe, dream, do it.
Thank you. So I would also like to say out loud, thank you for the generosity from friends near and far, Alicia Roman, Timmy Quinlan, Whitney Wood, who connected me to Scot Rowen. Your generosity made this week. Thank you. At Windward, we have been engaged in training ourselves to become a trillion active anti-racist theater space. And there's this principle that our teacher, Nicole Brewer, has asked us to embrace, and it's called living in draft, living a life in draft. And that means that the story is not ready to be inked for me. And we have to constantly be open to learning more, open to rewriting, revising, because the story isn't complete. And if the story isn't complete, if it's been left out or erased, then it is our job. It's our job to unearth those stories, tell them, and celebrate them. And echoing Hamilton, not to be hokey or cheesy, this isn't just a moment. It is a movement. And it's our time, thank you, Wallace, to step up and step out and do the necessary work to make our theater a better place, especially for BIPOC artists whose representation and safety have been minimized and often erased. And it's a very important time in our country's history, specifically since we're talking about the arts, our American theater. And like we were saying before, if we do our work here, maybe that's going to affect their work there, and their work is going to affect Joe's work, and Joe's going to affect Jane. And all of a sudden, we're in this big, beautiful, positive chain of action. And action is what it's about. And these artists, everyone out there, these artists have come here all week, have done that. We spoke with Karen earlier this week about seeing our role models from a distance, imagining what they think, imagining what they value. But all of you have shrunk that distance for us because they care deeply for what the future is going to look like and how it's going to operate. And by coming here, sharing perspectives, challenging norms by example, they're challenging us. They're challenging us to raise the bar in our space. And they have shown up because they love theater. They know the work is necessary for our American theater to thrive. So thank you, Andrew Chappelle, Taria Campbell, Scott Rowen, Wallace Smith, and Karen Olivo. The kids are listening. And thank you for stepping up and stepping out. And I know that each of the students and the adults who got to share in conversation with you, this will be a marker in their lives, and this will instigate change in thought, and the conversation will lead to more action. And with that, that concludes our very first conversation, Hamilton and Decolonizing History, just for the night. So please join us on Friday, February 13th for our second conversation, Artists in Conversation, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Playwriting, and Creating an Inclusive Narrative. I will see you all soon, and step up and step out.